Hi, I'm Chad-Magendanz, State Representative for the 5th District. Today, I'd like to talk about K-12 education. This year, the state must make significant progress towards fully funding education. The state Supreme Court, in its McCleary ruling, found that the state is failing in its constitutional paramount duty to amply provide for the education of all children. The state legislature now has 3 different education funding plans to consider. One from the House Democrats, one from Senate Democrats, and one from Senate Republicans. In brief, the House Democrats' plan creates a new Education Funding Council, which would study and recommend how to fully fund public schools. One of the funding options would be a new carbon tax. My problem with this plan is we've already studied this issue extensively. The last thing we need is another task force or council. We need to move forward, and based on the recent contempt finding, the Supreme Court is likely to agree. The Senate Democrats' plan would impose a new capital gains tax. One of the many problems with a capital gains tax is that it's incredibly volatile. One year, the state could take in a lot of revenues. The next year, much less. That's not the stable source of funding we need for our schools. I'm much more partial to the Senate Republicans' plan because I've collaborated on its design and because it most closely follows the recommendations of the working groups, councils, and task force that have already studied and researched education funding. Among other things, it creates a new teacher salary grid and allows for adjustments in areas that have higher cost of living. It shifts levy authority for basic education from local school districts to the state. It bases teacher pay on certification instead of seniority. One common element in all the proposals is a major increase in K-12 funding, almost 18%. After 30 years of neglect, we are really getting serious about fully funding our schools. So, considering that lawmakers and the governor want to boost state education spending to a level not seen in decades, it's beyond strange that the State Teachers Union, the Washington Education Association, or WEA, is running negative ads against Senate Republicans, saying their plan would make classrooms more crowded and other false claims. I won't get into all the details, but suffice it to say that the WEA's claims should be greeted with a healthy dose of skepticism. It's important to remember that neither Governor Inslee's K-12 funding proposal nor the House Democrats provides full funding for Initiative 1351, the class size measure supported by the WEA that narrowly passed last November. The governor and most lawmakers are focused on reducing class sizes in grades K through 3, where research show it actually helps. What the WEA didn't tell voters last year was that the cost to implement Initiative 1351 would be about $2 billion every 2 years. In order to fund it, we'd either have to cut early learning, higher education, or social services significantly, or impose a middle-class tax hike that would be simply unacceptable to the people of Washington State. Along with the WEA ad, teachers in several school districts have voted to stage one-day strikes against the legislature. Look, I'm a huge fan of teachers. My dad was one, several family members teach, and I very nearly became one myself. But to stage a strike when lawmakers are talking about a nearly 18% funding increase, just under $1.5 billion, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This is the highest level of funding we've had in 27 years. It looks like we may not agree to a final plan by the end of the regular session. We may have to go in overtime. That's too bad. Many of us had hoped we could get done in the 105 days allotted to us. But whatever the case, rest assured that K-12 education will receive significant new funding, not just because the court has ordered us to, but because it's the right thing to do. Thanks for listening and have a great day.